Hi everyone, so today I'm here with another SQL question from the company McKinsey. So the question is on finding the net present value for queries from two tables using SQL. So let's understand the question first. Assume that we have two tables, one called NPV table and the other called queries table. The NPV table contains data for different ID and year combination along with their corresponding NPV values. The queries table lists all the ID and year combinations that we are interested in, and our task is to find the NPV of each query from the queries table, and we have to return the output by order by ID and year in the ascending order. It is also important to note that if no NPV is available for a particular combination in the NPV table, you have to assign a zero value for that. So this is how your sample output looks like. We have three columns: ID, year and NPV, as we wanted to find the NPV of each query from the queries table. So let's see how this output has derived. So if we see that for the combination, of ID1 and 2019, we can see that the NPV value is 113. So we have listed the NPV value over here. For this combination of ID2 and year 2008, the NPV value is 121, and this is how it is displayed. For the combination of ID3 and year 2009, we can see that the NPV value is 12, and this is how it has been derived. And now if we see for the combination of 7 2018, we can see that there is no NPV value present for this particular combination, and since we have been given that if no NPV is available for a particular combination in the NPV table, we have to assign a zero value for this particular instance. So in the output table we have assigned NPV 0 for this. Now if we see for the combination of 7 2019, we can say that already the NPV value is given, that is 0, so we have listed the same. Now for the year 7 2020, the NPV value is 30, and similarly for 13 2019, the NPV value is 40. So this is how our output is going to derive. Now let's go through the solution steps to see that how to write a SQL query to find this expected output from these two input tables. So our solution steps are going to be, for the very first step, we are just going to perform a left join on both the tables. This is because we want to include all the rows from the queries table even if there is no matching NPV data. So that's why we are just going to perform left join from the queries table to the NPV table, and we will do it on the matching column, say ID and year on both the columns. Now in a step 2, we are going to handle null values using if null function. So the next step would be to handle cases where an NPV value does not exist for a particular ID and year, and we will be using if null function to replace null values with 0. Now the third step would be to just sort by year, ID and year, because since we want to sort our data in the ascending order for the ID and year. So that's how we are just going to solve this question. So let's now move on to the implementation. So guys, as you can see, I have already imported both the tables, NPV table and the queries table here. So if I just run this query, you can see that all the records of my NPV table has been displayed over here. And if I just run this queries table, you can see that all the records from my queries table have been displayed over here. Now since I just want to find the NPV for each query from the queries table, so my first step was to perform a left join perform a left join on both the tables. So let's just do that. So I'm just writing that I just want all the records from both the tables. So from my queries table, since I want all the records from my queries table, so left join on my NPV table. So let's just name the queries table as, I'm just giving it as alias Q, and I'm just giving it as alias N, and I have to do it on both the conditions. Say my ID of NPV table should be equal to the ID of my queries table, and also the year of my NPV table should be equal to the year of my queries table. So I'll just do that N dot ID is equals to q dot id and q dot should be equal to n dot year. So if I just run this query, just see what I'll be getting is. So as you can see that I have got all the records. But now what actually we want in my output table is that I just want to query the NPV values for each query from the queries table. So I want to retrieve three columns over here: ID, year, ID and year from the queries table, and the NPV value from my NPV table. So I want all the records from my queries table. So I'm just writing q dot star, and I want to retrieve the NPV table, n dot NPV. So if I just run this query now, as you can see that I have got my ID and year columns from my queries table and the NPV column from my NPV table. Now since we were given that if no NPV is available for a particular combination in the particular combination of ID and year in the NPV in the queries table, in the NPV table, if you don't see any NPV value for this any combination, say for here 7 and 2018, it is given that null, so we have to replace it using 0. So our second step would be to handle null values using if null operator. So now how will we do that? So here if I just apply the if null, so if it is if null, it should give me 0. Okay, so it should be, the alias should be NPV, net present value. So what this will do is it will just check if whether the NPV value is null, and if it is null it will just assign a value of 0, otherwise it will just keep the original NPV value as it is. So this is how we are just going to use this. So if I just run the entire query, you can see that my null value has been replaced with 0. Now at the last we just wanted to sort the results using order by clause. So order by ID and year should be in my ascending order. So now if I just run this query, you can see that I have got my expected output. So this was my expected output, and you can see that we have successfully retrieved the NPV values from the queries table. So guys, there is one more method to solve this question, that is using case statement. So in this case, we will first create a derived table so that derived table will actually act as a subquery, which will just join the queries table and the NPVs table using left join that we already did. So I will just write that first. So I'll just perform the left join on the queries table, giving the queries table as Q, and I'll just do the left join on my NPV table and I'll just alias it as N. And since I'll be doing it on both the conditions, say ID of NPV table should be equal to the ID of my queries table, also the year of my NPV table should be equal to the year of my queries table. So I will just apply both the conditions, Q dot ID and Q dot year should be equal to N dot year. And since I just want to retrieve the NPV values of all the queries from my queries table, so since I want all the columns from my queries table, that is the ID and year columns, and only the NPV N dot NPV as my NPV1, let's say. Okay, so if I just run this, as you can see that I have got my results over here. So Now my second step would be that after building my derived table, I'll just use the case statement to check whether the NPV value is null. And if it is null, I'll just assign it the value 0. And if it is not null, I will just keep it the original NPV1 value. So I will just make it as my subquery. Just make it my subqueries. Sorry. From this derived table, I will just retrieve. So select from. So from this table, I will just retrieve whatever the columns I want to retrieve. So I'll just give it as alias as window table, because any subquery, any table should have some alias. So I have just given the alias. So here let's just write the case when statement. Say case when my NPV1 is not null. In that case, it should display my NPV1 value, NPV1. Otherwise, it should just display else 0. It should just display 0, and I will just give it a alias as NPV, because that is something that should be in my output. And also the two other columns that I want to retrieve is the ID and year from my queries table. So from my queries table, so I just write it as q.id as id1 and q.year as year1. So this is from my queries table, and this is what I just want to retrieve. So that is my ID1 as ID and year1 as year. So these are the two columns, ID and year, that I want to retrieve, and NPV I want to retrieve. At the last, I just wanted to do order by on my ID column and the year column. So this is how I'm going to write my query. So if I just run this entire query, you can see that I have got my expected output, which is actually the same as my sample output. So that's all for this solution, guys. So here we have done it using two methods. First method was using if null, and the second method was using case when statement. So both the approaches are valid, but using a case statement provides more flexibility for handling complex conditions, as you can easily add more conditions within the case block if needed. So that's all about the solution of this problem, guys. If you think that you have any other solution in your mind, please let me know in the comment sections. Also, please do like, share and subscribe the video. Thank you.